Chapter 10. Motion and Measurement of Distances. Let's begin. Have you ever traveled by a metro train? Which transport do you use to go to school? Do all the students go to school by the same means of transport? Those of you who live very near to school might be walking to school. Some might be using bicycles, rickshaws, scooters or cars. Those who live far might be coming by buses. If you had to visit some other city, you might travel by car, bus, train or aeroplane. Why is a particular mode of transport chosen for each journey? History of transport. The early man moved only on foot. Then animals were domesticated and they carried men and goods from one place to another. For traveling on water, wooden logs with a hollow cavity in them were used. Gradually, man learnt to join logs to make rafts. Wooden planks were also used to make boats. In earlier times, it was very difficult to move from one place to another and measure the distances also. The early people generally used animals to help them move from one place to another. But as time passed by and the technology developed, we moved from carts to rockets. The invention of the wheel brought a revolution in transport. The simple sailboat was replaced by big and modern ships. The steam engine is replaced by electric engines. Man has developed a means of traveling in the sky also. Have you read stories about earlier times? Do you want to know more about the ancient people and how they traveled from one place to another and how did they measure the distances? So, let's learn more about earlier methods of measurement. Earlier methods of measurement. You must have heard the stories in which you must have read that to find the treasure the prince went 50 steps ahead. Such stories indicate that in earlier times the humans had some knowledge of measuring distances also. In earlier times, measurement of length was based on the human body, for example the length of a foot, the length of a stride pace, the span of a hand and the breadth of a thumb. A yard is the distance from the tip of the palm of your stretched hand to the tip of your nose. A cubit was used to measure length by many ancient and medieval peoples. 1 cubit is equal to the length of the arm from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger. A hand span is the distance from the tip of the thumb to the tip of the little finger in a stretched hand. Hand span is generally used to measure small objects. Hand span is one of the non-standard units of measurement. A foot is an ancient method of measurement based directly on the length of human feet. The plural of foot is feet, which is also used as unit of measurement at many places. It is also a non-standard unit of measurement. Relationship between feet and yard. 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. The width of the thumb was taken as an inch. In our country, small lengths were generally measured by a finger or a fist. Even today, you will find some flower sellers use their forearm to measure the length for garlands. Measurement. Measurement is the determination of the magnitude of a quantity by comparing it with a standard for the same. In other words, we can say that it is a process of comparison. Standard units of measurements. For uniformity and convenience, a common unit is necessary for the measurement of a physical quantity. For accurate measurement, we need some standard representation of every physical quantity. For this, the chosen standard units are called a standard unit of measurement. A standard unit is a standard measure that has some definite and convenient quantity, so that it remains the same under all conditions. In 1960, it was recommended that a common system called the International System of Units (SI) unit system should be used all over the world. Physical quantities of measurement. There are several physical quantities such as length, mass, time, temperature, volume and area that we can measure. Physical quantities can be divided into 2 categories. A. Fundamental physical quantities. B. Derived physical quantities. Fundamental physical quantities are those that cannot be defined in terms of other quantities, for example, length, mass, time, etc. Units in which these fundamental quantities are measured are called fundamental units. There are 7 fundamental units shown in the table. Quantity: SI unit. Length meter m. Mass kilogram kg. Time second s. Electric current ampere A. Thermodynamic temperature Kelvin K. Amount of substance mole. Luminous intensity candela CD. Derived physical quantities are those that are defined in terms of fundamental quantities. For example, area of a rectangle is the product of its length and breadth. Volume of a cuboid is the product of its length, breadth and height. The SI unit for measuring length. Length is a distance between any 2 points. The SI unit for measuring length, meter, has several decimal multiples. What are the decimal multiples of the meter? Conversion charts for metric system. Metric system conversion chart for length. 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. 10 centimeters is equal to 1 decimeter. 10 decimeters is equal to 1 meter, or 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. 10 meters is equal to 10 meters is equal to 1 decameter. 10 decameters is equal to 100 meters is equal to 1 hectometer. 10 hectometers is equal to 1000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. Measurement of length. We cannot measure the circumference of a ball or a tree using a meter scale. But a measuring tape can be used in this case. So, for measuring the length of an object, we must choose a suitable measuring device. Height, breadth, depth, thickness and distance are all measurements of length. Meter rod, meter scale, rulers and measuring tapes are widely used to measure lengths. Correct measurement of length. We can measure the length of a line segment using a meter scale or a ruler. Suppose we have to measure the length of a line AB. The ruler is placed along the line so that 0 point on the scale coincides with point A of the line. The reading on the ruler at point B is the length of the line segment. But we have to take care of some precautions while measuring the length. Place the ruler exactly along the line or the length of the object to be measured. If the end of the ruler is broken or the 0 point is not clearly visible or readable, avoid using such scales or avoid taking the measurements from the 0 mark. Start measuring from some other mark. The actual length is the difference between the start and end points. Keep your eye vertically above the point where you have to take reading. As in the figure shown here. What you think would be the correct reading? The correct reading would be obtained when the eye is placed at B. Measuring the length of a curved line. We can use a divider and a thread to measure the length of a curved line. Using a thread. Suppose you have to measure the length of a curved line as shown in figure A. Mark small segments AB, BC, CD and so on as shown in the figure above. Press end A with your forefinger and place a small part of the thread exactly along the line. Press the other end of the part B with your other hand as shown in figure A. The thread between your fingers has the same length of the part AB of the line. Now, place first finger on B and again place a small part of the thread along the line and press other end of the thread with your other hand at C as shown in figure B. This is continued till the other end of the curved line I is reached. Now stretch out the thread on a scale and measure the length. The length of the thread is the length of the curved line. Using a divider. Adjust the distance between the legs of the divider, for example 5 mm or 1 cm. Place one of the legs at one end of the line. Press the other end to get an impression of second leg of the divider as shown in the figure. Now, rotate the divider with the second leg and get an impression of the first leg ahead. Go on repeating the process till the other end of the curved line is reached. Count the number of rotations. The length of the curved line can be obtained as total length is equal to number of rotations multiplied distance between the legs plus length of left over line segment. Moving things around us. We see people, animals, birds and vehicles move from one place to another. Our Earth, even the whole solar system, is in motion. The continuous change of position of a body with respect to another is called motion. In the above example, you are at rest with respect to your fellow passenger, but in motion with respect to the trees, houses, people and animals present outside the train. Actually, the people and children are changing their positions with respect to their surroundings while the tree does not change its position. So, the people and the children are in motion while the tree is in position of rest. So, we can conclude that a body is said to be at rest if it does not change its position with time and with respect to its surroundings. A body is said to be in motion if it changes its position with time and with respect to its surroundings. For example, when an athlete runs on the ground, he continuously changes his position with respect to the spectators who are sitting. Our Earth continuously changes its position with respect to the Sun, which has a fixed position in our solar system. So, when an object moves and changes its position, it covers some distance. A body seems to be at rest with respect to its neighboring moving objects, but the same body may appear to be in motion with respect to some other fixed neighboring objects. So, rest and motion are related. Types of motion. You must have observed the motion of a vehicle or a flying bird. Everything in the physical world is in motion, from the elementary particles within atoms to the largest galaxies of stars. Humans walk, animals run, birds fly, things move, a bicycle on a straight road, a falling stone under gravity, the seconds hand of a clock, an aeroplane in the sky, a pendulum moving back and forth, planets around the sun, rotating wheel, a merry-go-round, a swing, a fan, a string of a musical instrument, different parts of a sewing machine and so on. All these move in different ways, and these ways can be categorized as motion, translatory motion, circular motion, rotatory motion, periodic motion, linear or rectilinear motion, circular curvilinear motion, oscillatory motion, vibratory motion, uniform and non-uniform motion. When an object covers equal distance in equal intervals of time, then the motion of the object is said to be uniform motion. On the other hand, if an object covers unequal distances in equal intervals of time or vice versa, then the motion of the object is said to be non-uniform motion. Look at the picture given below. In this, a car is covering equal distance in equal intervals of time. So, the car is said to be in a uniform motion. Translatory motion, linear motion. When a body moves either in a straight line or along a curved path, then we say that it is in linear or translatory motion. For example, a train can move in a straight track or along the curved track. So, there are two kinds of translatory motion, rectilinear and curvilinear motion. When a body moves in a long straight line or path, then the linear or translatory motion is said to be rectilinear motion. For example, an athlete runs a race along a straight track. When a body moves along a curved path, then the linear or translatory motion is said to be curvilinear motion. For example, a car moves along a curved path. Circular motion. When a body keeps on moving along a circle, then it is said to be in circular motion. For example, movement of a car wheel or cycle wheel, blades of a fan, and moving giant wheel. Rotatory motion. A body is said to be in rotatory motion when it stays at one place and turns round and round about an axis. For example, a rotating fan, a spinning top, the earth. Periodic motion. If the same motion occurs again and again after regular intervals of time, it is called periodic motion. The pendulum of a wall clock shows periodic motion. You must have seen a swing. The swing moves forward and then backward and repeats the process many times. This to and fro motion of the swing is known as oscillation. Mark a point on the ground when the swing is in still position. As the swing moves, you can note the time of the swing to come back at its marked position. You will find that the swing comes at the marked position almost in the same time period. Hence, it is a periodic motion. When the body swings to and fro about a mean position, then it is said to be in oscillatory motion. Sometimes, when some parts of a body move repeatedly to and fro but the body doesn't move as a whole, this type of motion is known as vibratory motion, for example, vibrating spring, violin, tabla. Hence, both the oscillatory and vibratory motions are two types of periodic motion. Non-periodic motion. Some motions are repetitive but not at regular intervals. Such a motion is known as non-periodic motion. When we ride our bicycles, the motion of our legs is repetitive but not at regular intervals. As we pedal faster, our legs move faster, and as we slow down, the motion of our legs also slows down. More than one type of motion. We all know that our Earth moves around the Sun and it also rotates about its axis, so it has circular as well as rotatory motion. On the other hand, it completes one revolution in 365 days, which is a fixed time period, so it has periodic motion also. Similarly, when we see around us, we will find many examples where an object may have more than one movement. In some cases, you find that translatory and rotatory motions occur simultaneously. The wheels of a bicycle, car, train, bus, truck perform rotatory motion along the axis and at the same time perform translatory motion on the road. Have you ever watched a person using a drill machine? A drill has both translatory as well as rotatory motion as shown in the figure. The wheels of a bicycle or a car are said to roll, resulting in a combination of rotational and translatory motions. Similarly, a sewing machine remains in the same position while its wheel moves in circular motion and its needle moves up and down, undergoing a periodic motion.